was thick with silence, the kind that presses against your ears, making even your own breathing feel too loud. The streets were deserted, just how I liked them. Fewer people, fewer problems. But as my phone buzzed with a ride request, an uneasy chill prickled at the back of my neck. Pickup location: convenience store, 2.4 miles away. At first, nothing seemed out of the ordinary, just another late-night passenger. But as I neared the destination, a strange feeling clawed at my stomach, a low, sinking dread. My headlights sliced through the darkness, illuminating the store. It was closed. Not just closed, but completely lifeless. No employees locking up. No last-minute customers rushing out. Just a dead, abandoned building with a flickering sign that barely clung to life. The parking lot was a graveyard of emptiness. And then I saw him, a lone figure, pacing near the store entrance. His movements were twitchy, erratic, like he couldn't control his own limbs. He wore a tattered hoodie, the sleeves shredded, dark stains blotching the fabric. His fingers curled and uncurled as he kept looking over his shoulder, as if expecting something to lunge from the shadows behind him. Then suddenly he froze. His head snapped toward me. Even though I couldn't see his face, I felt his eyes drilling into me. A slow, suffocating sense of wrongness spread through my chest. Go. My brain screamed at me to cancel the ride, to drive away, to leave this place and never look back. My finger hovered over the cancel button. But then, without thinking, I unlocked the doors. And in that moment, I sealed my fate. The door swung open, slow and deliberate, like it had all the time in the world. He slid into the back seat without a word. No greeting, no small talk, just dead silence. The moment the door shut, a weight settled in the air, thick and suffocating. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. The car suddenly felt smaller, like the space between us had closed in. I could smell him now, a rancid mix of sweat, damp clothes, and something sharp, like rusted metal. I hit the start ride button, but my fingers hesitated over the wheel. Something about him felt off. I glanced in the rearview mirror. He was staring at me. Not out the window. Not at his phone. At me. His face was partially shadowed by the hood, but I could see enough to make my skin crawl. His lips were cracked, his skin stretched too tight over his cheekbones. His eyes, wide, unblinking, locked onto mine like he was studying something fragile. I snapped my gaze back to the road. Ignore him. Just drive. The silence stretched too long. Every second ticked by like a countdown. I reached for the radio dial, anything to break this suffocating tension. As soon as my fingers touched it, turn it off. His voice cut through the air, low, jagged, almost inhuman. I flinched. My hands gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. There was no anger in his voice. No emotion at all. Just a cold, flat command. I swallowed hard and turned the knob back down. My pulse hammered against my ribs. I focused on the road, counting the miles. Just a quick drop-off. 7 minutes. 6. 5. Then he leaned forward. I felt his breath warm, too close. You ever pick up someone you shouldn't have? A chill ripped down my spine. I forced a shaky chuckle. I hope not. No reaction. No smirk. Just silence. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, like he was confessing something, he muttered, "Yeah, neither did I. I didn't breathe." His voice had changed. It was almost nostalgic. Like he was reminiscing. Like he was reliving something awful. I flicked my eyes to the GPS. 3 minutes. Just 3 minutes. But it felt like the longest drive of my life. The road ahead was nothing but darkness. No houses, no street signs, just miles of empty asphalt stretching into the unknown. The further we drove, the more isolated it felt. Like I was being pulled into some place that didn't exist on any map. 1 minute left. The GPS insisted his stop was coming up, but there was nothing out here. Just vast, open fields swallowed by the night. Then, from the back seat, a chuckle. Low, hollow, like he was remembering something that shouldn't be funny. I gritted my teeth, pretending I didn't hear it. Then he spoke. "You ever think about it?" I swallowed. "Don't answer. Just keep driving. How easy it is to hurt someone when they don't even see it coming." The words coiled around me, cold and suffocating. I didn't respond. Couldn't. My hands were cemented to the wheel, my knuckles turning white. Then suddenly he started muttering under his breath. At first it was just disjointed words, nonsense. But then I heard it. "I'm sorry." He said it again and again. "I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry." His voice was shaking now, frantic and uneven. I risked a glance in the rearview mirror. He was rocking slightly, fingers gripping his knees so tight I thought his nails might dig through his skin. His lips moved, whispering those same words over and over, like a broken record stuck on its final track. Then his head snapped up, his eyes met mine, and for the first time I saw everything. The guilt, the panic, the danger, the realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Whatever he had done, it had been recent, and I was the one driving him away from it. I forced my eyes back to the road. 30 seconds left. The turn for his stop was coming up, but there was nothing there. No house, no driveway, just a black void stretching on forever. Then his voice dropped to a whisper. "I think you should pull over." A chill shot through me. I wasn't stopping. I didn't care what the GPS said, because if I stopped now, I wouldn't be leaving this car alive. The road stretched on, endless and empty. My headlights carved through the darkness, but there was nothing ahead, no turn, no driveway, no destination. But the GPS insisted. "Turn right in 300 feet. I gritted my teeth. There was no right turn, just open fields and shadows swallowing the road. Then his voice. "You missed it." Low, almost teasing. A chill slithered down my spine. I forced myself to glance in the mirror. He was smiling. Not wide, not exaggerated, just the thin, knowing curve of his lips, like he had been waiting for this moment. "Pull over." It wasn't a suggestion. My fingers curled tighter around the wheel. "We're almost there," I muttered, keeping my voice steady. His grin widened. "No, we're already here." The GPS screen glitched, flashing red before resetting. Rerouting. Rerouting. My pulse thundered in my ears. I'd been driving to nowhere. He shifted in his seat, the leather groaning beneath him. A slow, deliberate movement, like he was getting ready. I could feel it. The moment before the storm. The second before the strike. If I stopped the car, I was dead. I took a breath, then slammed my foot on the gas. The tires screeched. The engine growled as the car lunged forward, forcing him back against the seat. For the first time that night, he sounded surprised. Then he started laughing. Deep, amused, hungry. But I didn't care. I wasn't stopping. I didn't look back. I just drove. The speedometer climbed, the car trembling as I pushed it harder than I ever had before. The road ahead was a black void, stretching endlessly, offering no escape. But I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Behind me, the air felt heavier, thicker. The seat creaked as he shifted forward, his breath slow, measured, just inches from my ear. Then he whispered, "You really think you left me behind?" A jolt of terror shot through me. I hadn't looked in the mirror since I hit the gas. Hadn't dared. Now every nerve in my body screamed not to check. "Don't look. Don't look. Don't." But I did. And he was smiling. Not in the back seat. Not even inside the car. But right outside my window. His face, just beyond the glass, grinning in the dark, keeping pace with me even at 70 miles per hour. I slammed the brakes. The tires screeched. The car spun out of control, the world twisting into a blur. My vision whited out and then silence. No impact. No crash. Just stillness. My breath came in short gasps as I gripped the wheel, my knuckles bone white. My body was shaking. My mind screamed at me to get out, to run, to do something. But then I saw it. The back door was closed. No sign that anyone had ever been there. I grabbed my phone, my fingers trembling as I checked the ride history. Still active. The drop-off location? 0 miles away. My stomach turned. I wasn't at the wrong location. I was exactly where I was supposed to be. The realization settled like a cold weight in my chest. He was never just a passenger. He had been waiting for me all along. And worst of all, I wasn't sure if he had ever really left. I don't know what I picked up that night. A man? A ghost? Something else entirely? But I do know this. If your gut tells you to drive away, listen. If something doesn't feel right, it isn't. And if you ever hear someone whisper, "You missed the turn," don't look in the mirror, because you might not like what's looking back.